Guys, what a pleasure to be back. It's taken me 6 months, and in the meanwhile, I got married. And I think I've made the joke before, but in Hebrew, you're only a man when you're married. Before that, you're a boy. So this is my pleasure for 2 reasons. The one is that my wife actually motivated me to make a video of this, and the fact that this is my first video on this channel where I'm actually a married man. So without further ado, today we are speaking about one of the most difficult concepts in the Bible, and this is the concept of sin. It is so complex that I think most believers, and I fully include myself under that, we avoid to define what we believe is the definition of sin. It's very much the same the way we treat salvation, for example. We all hope that we mean the same thing. And then very often when we dig deep enough, we realize, hey, hang on, I haven't actually thought about what I mean. For a conversation about sin, I think there are 2 starting points. You can either start in Genesis 4 verse 7, which is the first occurrence of the word sin, the Hebrew word CHATTA in the text, or you could start in Matthew 1 verse 21, where the angel speaks to Joseph and Mary and say, you're going to have a son, you have to call him Yeshua, and Yeshua will save his people from their sin. Now here's a very interesting thing. Both the first occurrence of sin in the Old Testament and the first occurrence of sin in the New Testament, CHATTA and HAMARTIA respectively, both of them mean to miss the mark. Miss the mark. CHATTA, Chet, Tet, Aleph, and HAMARTIA. And I don't know enough about Greek to pronounce that in Greek other than HAMARTIA. But both of them mean to miss the mark. And what does missing the mark mean? In plain English, let's say I'm a shooter. Let's say I'm an archer. Let's say I'm a dart player, whatever. In my craft, I need to aim for a target and give my best. Try to hit bullseye, try to hit the center, or just even try to get onto the target. I have 0 guarantees. 0 that I would actually hit the target. I almost have every bit of guarantee that somewhere or somehow or in some context I will miss the mark. I will miss the target. And this is the curious thing about sin, is that despite how hard we try, how good we are, how versed we are in the Torah, chances are that somewhere along the line you and I will miss the mark. And by the way, is that not the message of the scriptures, that everyone has fallen short of the glory of God? Everyone, not a single person in this world except Yeshua has kept every bit of the Torah, has upheld, has kept the standard of Yahweh, Yeshua. So we're sitting here with the word CHATTA and the word HAMARTIA, both to miss the mark. But in Hebrew, curiously, there are 2 other words. The one is the word AVON, Ayin, Vav, Nun, Sefit, and this usually gets translated as iniquity, but the word AVON means to take the truth and bend it slightly. And what is an example of that? Let's say, for example, I tell you a story of what I did yesterday, but I did something that I'm trying to hide from you, but I tell you all the rest. I just hide the complete truth from you. That is bending the truth. I'm not lying to you outright, but I'm twisting the complete truth to fit what I want you to know, to fit the picture that I want to convey. So I'm playing with the truth, I'm bending it, I'm twisting it. Avon. And the third one is PESHA. Pei, Shin, Ayin. Now this word literally means I know what is wrong and I refuse to do what is right. Or rather, shall I say, I know what is right and I don't do it. Or worse, I know what is wrong and I pursue that. And the good English translation for this is rebellion. This is intentional sinning. This is intentional transgression. CHATTA, AVON, PESHA. But here's the thing. CHATTA does not mean you intentionally do what is wrong. It could even mean that you try to do what is right. But the principle of CHATTA tells you that somewhere you will miss the mark. Somewhere I will miss the mark, even though my best intentions are not to. I will miss the mark somewhere, and if I miss it once, I've sinned. This is the message of the Bible. When you look at AVON, you can argue there isn't the intent to lie to somebody, but there is the shame of telling the truth, or there is the awareness that if I bend it, it would play into my courts a little bit better. Okay, so there's an intention question there. With PESHA, the intention is, I want to do wrong. I rebel. And if you study the text and analyze all the occurrences, it's very interesting how the text comments on the phenomena of which type of sin is being committed. Is it iniquity? Is it rebellion? Is it merely missing the mark? And if you read Psalm 51, David actually uses all of these words in his whole reprise about Bathsheba and how he, first of all, missed the mark. There was a part of what he did that was AVON, but there was a part of what he did that was straight up PESHA. Go read Psalm 51. CHATTA does not necessarily mean you're a rebel. It does not necessarily mean you twist the truth. But when you twist the truth and when you rebel, you are definitely missing the mark. So in a sense, we can say CHATTA is the overarching word to sin, to miss the mark. The question that I have is, do we understand the implication of missing the mark? Because if you miss the mark, you are in need of help. You are in need of somebody that steps in and say, I can not miss the mark on your behalf. I can unmiss the mark almost on your behalf. And this is the story of the gospel. This is the good news of Yeshua the Messiah. You will have a son and he will save. He will yasha, that's the Hebrew word for save. He will yasha his people from their missing of the mark, their necessary missing of the mark. And this is the entire story of Jesus, and the good news of Jesus is that he was the only one that never ever missed the mark, that never ever did AVON or PESHA, but that he never faltered. This is unbelievably interesting, but equally unbelievably important that we understand there is not a me trying to be good and therefore not sinning. The only way that I cannot sin is if the law, the Torah, cannot judge me. And for this to go deeper, we need to understand the Greek word for lawlessness is the word anomia. And it's equal to the word rebellion. It literally says that if you are without the Torah, in other words, if the Torah is not perfectly upheld by you, you are, by definition, lawless. And the only way you cannot be lawless is if somebody or something stands in your place and correct this problem on your behalf. And this, again, is the gospel. The only way that my life can be not lawless is when I am not alive anymore. But when the life of Christ, the life of Messiah, is the only life that lives in me and through me. And this is why Paul says we should die in Christ. There should be less of me, less and less and less of me, and more of Messiah, more and more of Christ, because this strange handover is what gives me a right standing with God, is what fixes the problem with CHATTA and HAMARTIA, to miss the mark. There is only one way I cannot sin, and that is if I am not the one alive anymore, but Christ who lives in me, Christ who lives through me. I'm going to stop here and just unpack the word CHATTA, chet, tet, aleph. There are two ways to read that word. The one is to read it, the barrier that separates me from God. The thing, the very thing that cuts me off from God, that creates a wall between me and God. That's the one way of, that's almost the obvious way to read it. But the other way to read it is to say that the container or the target, the outer peripheral wall, chet, tet, in other words, the wall or the barrier, the outside, the outer peripheral wall of the container, of the target, is the very issue. And it's so beautiful, because if you shoot, you're not guaranteed to hit the mark. And since that is true, We all need to be rescued from CHATTA. And this is the story of the gospel. This is the story of the Bible, is that everyone has missed the mark. And the answer is Yeshua, his life in yours, his life through yours, his life in me, his life through me. I hope this bless you. Like, subscribe, share. Let's get the good news out to everyone.